The pasuk says after the Mabul, Vayishar Ach Noach, that it remained, Vayishar, there remained in the world Ach Noach, only Noach, Vasher Itoi Bateva. And everybody who was with Noach in the Teva. And Rashi is bothered by the Kasha Ach Noach. What's only Noach? Vayishar Ach Noach, only Noach remained, Vasher Itoi Bateva. It should say Vayishar Noach. And it remained, the Ach and Vayishayir, there remained means others were nifter. So Vayishayir Noach, Noach survived, and the people at the table, to say Vayishayir, there survived only, survivor means that others didn't. So Vayishayir and the Ach is a double lashon. Vayishayir Noach, and what remained is Noach. You don't need to say Vayishayir Ach Noach. Noach remaining means that others are not there. So Rashi says that the word ach is obviously a miyut, and the miyut can't be others because it said vayishaer. So Rashi says two pshatim. One pshat is ach Noach, that Noach was compromised. He was very worn out. Says Rashi, umedrash agad goynech v'kaya dam. He was like blood. He was spitting up blood. Mitarcha behemas v'achayos. That Noach, one pshat is ach Noach, a diminished Noach. That's what it means, ach Noach. Ach is a miyut. So there survived not only Noach, but only a diminished Noach. The ach Noach means Noach was diminished. In what way was he diminished? He was mamish vomiting blood. He had worked so hard that Tareach HaBehemais, he was vomiting blood. Rashi has a second pshat in the Ach Noach, a diminished Noach. Says Rashi, second pshat, She'icher Mezaynes La'ari, he fed the lion, he was delayed in feeding the lion, Vikishu, and the lion bit him. So the second pshat is Ach Noach, a diminished Noach. He had a wound from being bitten by the lion. He delayed the mezainis of the lion. Said the Rebbe, it looks like there are two pshatim. There are two pshatim in Rashi. There are two pshatim here in Ach Noach. One pshat, he brings the Gemara Sanhedrin, diminished Noach. Noach had mamish given so much to his shlichus. That's one pshat. And the second pshat is in Ach Noach, that Noach was punished and he came out diminished because he delayed feeding the lion in time. The Rebbe said a pshat that I found so appropriate this week. It jumped out at me in the matzav that we find in ourselves in Klal Yisrael. The situation that we're in, that we're in the middle of in Klal Yisrael, it's a heavy time. There's a lot on our mind. And the Rebbe said a pshat in Rashi. It's like, to me, it's amazing. The Torah is so dvarav chayim ekayamim. Hashem's words that talk to us where we are, as we are. I saw this Rashi, and I saw the words of the Rebbe on this Rashi. I felt the Torah is just talking to me. I'm curious if the Chevra feels the same way. Listen to what the Rebbe said about this Rashi. He said it's talking to one circumstance. Said the Rebbe that two pshatim in Ach Noach. One is Noach was worn out. He was so busy with his shlichus. And he said, the Rebbe said there could be a mabul in the world. And so much upheaval, but a human being engages in his shlichus. He's busy with who he is and what he's supposed to be doing. And the first Ach Noach, describing a Noach who was diminished, he was worn out, he forgot his own needs, ever focused on the shlichus that he has. And forgetting his own needs, and a Noach comes out diminished from the Mabul, is the pshat that amidst so much turmoil, so much difficulty, Noach taught us, and Hashem teaches us through Noach, that the avodah of the tzaddik is that he's busy with his tafkid. And Noach forgets himself, and he's Ach Noach. He's diminished, he's weak, he's vomiting blood, In midst of all the turmoil, Noach is ever focused on his mission, forgetting some of himself, forgetting his woes, his worries, the destruction that surrounded him. But Noach Mamish was engaged in his mission. That was the first part of Rashi. Says the Rebbe brilliantly, but that's all Klape himself. That's all Klape himself. The Rebbe said a pshat in a Rashi that I think is like, to say it's talking to us now. Obviously, the Torah wrote it now, and we're supposed to learn it now, so it's talking to us now. He said that Noach comes out of the Teva, Ach Noach, diminished. Ach is a miyut. It can't be saying others weren't killed, others were killed, only Noach, not others, because it said Vayishair. There remained Noach, that means that others didn't remain. So Ach means even Noach only partially came out of the Teva. Rashi has two pshatim. One is he was vomiting, he was diminished, he was shvach, because he was so busy feeding the animals. That's Rashi's first pshat. He had a task and a mission. And he came diminished, he was so busy with his tafkid. Rashi's second pshat is he was diminished, he was bitten by the lion, he was delayed feeding the lion. Said the Rebbe that amidst difficulty and challenge and turmoil, mitzad echad, a person can almost forget himself and some of his needs in the focus on the shlichus. The person busy, I have a job and a task. And Noach, amidst so much turmoil, so much loss, so much challenge, Noach is busy forgetting himself, but feeding, doing, accomplishing his mission. But said the Rebbe, here is the balance. The person has to be careful. Then when it comes to somebody else, to pay attention to the details and needs they have. That Noach so busy and focused and overwhelmed in his own needs, he's vomiting blood. He forgot he was busy with the shlichus. But he's punished that klape the needs of the lion. He has a wound. He forgot to be sensitive and attentive to the need of a lion. The second pshat of Rashi, that he has a bite of the lion. He says to be ever present and detailed and present for somebody else. Klape ourselves, we could grab on to mission and purpose and even forget some of our situation in an interesting way because we're focused on mission. But klape the needs of our child, our little kid, he's not meshubed to our passion and fire. The challenge itself may make us focus on serious things. Amidst challenges, we may forget frivolous things. But our little kid's trip to the mall to play a game, his football game, say big stuff going on. For our Noach amidst big stuff, said the Rebbe, on his own needs is like forgot small things. He's vomiting blood is the picture that there's big stuff going in the world. It focused Noach on mission, on that which is important, and his own needs in a gewisse Eifen are neglected. But the pshat too of Rashi is that he had an einish, he was late feeding the lion. The lion's not meshubed. Those he attends to should have their steak and their meal and their things on time. And the Rebbe pointed out the balance of a person in difficult times. In difficult times, trivial things for ourselves become less important. We worry less. It's not what we're thinking about for ourselves. It's serious. Klape yenim, the slightest detail. We don't say we don't say to our kids or other people, klape the zulas. You serious? In wartime, no. Klape the zulas will worry to make sure his dinner is served on time. That's what the Rebbe said on this Rashi. I felt so relevant to our day, to our time, to our tafkid, to our situation, living in two zones. I felt it was interesting. The night number 1, we came back to yeshiva. And there's definitely a heaviness, and klape self, it's a dominant thought on our minds. And maybe we can neglect certain areas of things as Klape the next person, worrying, making sure the basketball game is geschmack. Klape our children, klape those that rely on us. In the words, we've all heard the shmuz, Yenis Gashmis is our ruchnis. I think I felt like this idea that he brought out from the two pshatim in Rashi was so wildly relevant in the Zman that we face. It's a situation where for sure a Yid is pushed to live high, to live big. The first part of the Rashi. A situation where people are focused, everybody has his station. Everybody has the Kiddush Shamayim that we're more focused on. To stand up, it's wartime. It's wartime, and each of us in our own way, in our own lives, from our own station, is trying to be Mekadesh Shem Shemaim, is trying to live bigger, to focus bigger, to focus not to be petty, to be Meichel others, to see Tov in others, to be big, not to be petty. But then again, even in wartime, when we might have this fire and this passion to live big, but our kid has a certain toy that he needs, and we could be there for him. That's what he showed on the two pshatim of Rashi. He saw that. I was very, very moved. Shloimeh, it might sound like two different pshatim. He showed that in one matziv, there's an idea here. It's not just stam two pshatim in Rashi. There's an idea here amidst the mabul, amidst difficulty, how the human being responds. Hyper vigilant, hyper focused on big stuff, and ignoring trivialities, klape yatzmai. But in Achrayis, when it comes to the Zulas, Noach is punished. You were late giving the tiger his meal. Klape the Zulas, to notice the little thing and the detail when it comes to others. And that's what he pointed out to us in this Rashi. I felt like Bismanenu, it nailed it. It so nailed it. I've spoken to the Chevra about all of us in Elul. Whenever you're involved with the family life in Elul, and you're balancing a person's thinking the haibin of things, and then his child has needs and wants, and being ever present to the needs of others, to the small details. I feel like this week and this tkuf and this period, it calls upon us a lot to have this type of balance, klape self, klape others, to live in this manner, in this beautiful manner. For ourselves, neglecting certain things is the bigness. For the other person, noticing the details and the small things of life. Did you eat lunch today? Did the game go off okay today? So noticing that's what I wanted to share in this Rashi. I wanted to say very, very famously, the Baal Shem, famously when it said to Noach, when he's told, go into the Teva, very, very famously, the Baal Shem said that going to the Teva amidst difficult times is the Yid enters the world of Torah and mitzvahs. And I want to explain it. It's not to be mitzi. I want to say something that my friends here are sophisticated. And I want to say that we have to get a little more mature when we're kids. Everybody knows that when the tzaros and difficult times, you have an intenseness in learning, and more Torah and more tefillah. That's true. That's true. More Torah and tefillah. It's mechazik. We're mechazik in who we are. Akol kol Yaakov, the kol Torah, kol tefillah. But there's something deeper that's true. That a Yid faces events not in a political way. I caught myself the first couple of days. I understand the Baal Shem much better. Of course, we need the schos Torah and the schos tefillah. But amidst the mabul, enter the teva. Go into the tevais of the Torah. Go into the tevais of tefillah means see the event from a perspective of Torah and mitzvahs. See the event, Hashem's calling us to live bigger, is calling us to see it not in a political way. We could check out the event, what's happening. That's not entering the teva, it's seeing it in a very physical way. What happened, who's right, who's, going on like politically, whose solution's the best. Do you think the army should do this or do that? We can enter into the matzavim in a very, very physical and worldly way. And difficult situations ask us to go to a place of faith, entering into a mindset of Torah, into a mindset of prayer, thinking about Hashem, asking that there shouldn't be Hester Panim. The Bayal Teva, the entering the Teva of Torah and Tefillah, of course, physically being mechazik in Torah, being mechazik in Tefillah, but really approaching events from a mindset of Torah and Tefillah. We could busy with the events of Klal Yisrael standing up and being mechazik, being Yidden. A mindset of Torah, a mindset of prayer. Yidden begging Hashem, al taster panecha mimeni. So famously, that's what he said, Bayal Teva. Now you might ask that it says Seimen Teva. And of course, the Baal Shem is not being cute. Seimen Teva also means from the world of Teva, we engage the world, but from a world of Teva. Of course, he enters the Teva of Tzaris, that we live in a different world than everybody else. We see things different. We see what happens to us different. I'm not saying it's not justified anger. People are angry. The terrorists, Hamas, and gesund, we're allowed to be angry. Those that attack Hashem, Karni Risham Agadeya, and Ibid Risham Izrina. But that's not entering the Teva. That's a very secular way of dealing with events. It's a start. It's true. We're allowed to anger, and it's not a problem. But Seyala Teva is a different view of events. Seeing it different, relating to it different. A Yid relates and sees events much different, from a different vantage point, from a different place, from a much, much different place. A Yid sees events and absorbs events. That's the call in difficult times of enter the Teva. The Teva of Torah, the Teva of the words, the Tevais, which means words that a Yid enters in difficult times. I wanted to call them. Of course, we engage in the world. Say Minat Teva. Of course, we engage the world. Say Minat Teva is we have an army and we have Ishtadlus, and that's Say Minat Teva. You don't just engage from the Teva. We have a world where we live in this world, but from the vantage point of Teva. I wanted to talk about a topic. I wanted to study a topic with the Chevra today. The main thing I wanted to talk about. There are two Chazal I wanted to study specifically today. I wanted to study two Chazal that are very, very similar, but we'll discuss subtle differences and talk practically to all of us here. Hashem says to Noach, Vayomer Hashem leNoach, Baya tov chol beischa lateva. Noach, go into the teva, you and your household. Ki oizcha re'isi tzaddik lefanai b'dar hazeh, because I see you as a tzaddik in this generation. Ki oizcha re'isi tzaddik lefanai. You're a tzaddik b'dar hazeh in this generation. Now the Gemara in Eruvin, Daf Yud Ches, the Gemara asks a kasha. When Hashem's talking to Noach, Hashem calls him a tzaddik. Ki oischa ra'isi tzaddik l'fanei b'dar hazeh. At the beginning of Noach, of course, when Hashem's talking about Noach, not to Noach, it says, Eila told us, Noach ish tzaddik. And it adds, Tamim haya b'daraisav. He was Tamim. It adds the word Tamim. Calls him a tzaddik Tamim. It adds another praise, another compliment Tamim. And the Gemara in Eruvin Yud Ches of Elazar, the Gemara says from one of the Amoraim, is bothered by That at the beginning of Parashas Noach, Hashem says Noach is a tzaddik tamim, and later in Parashas Noach, Hashem's talking to Noach, Hashem calls him a tzaddik, not tzaddik tamim. So the Gemara in Ervin's bothered by this. Says the Gemara in Ervin Mikan. From here we see this from an Amoira. The Gemara in Ervin Yudches Med Beis. She'oimrim miksa shalada miksa shvach shalad befanav v'kulay shaloi befanav. You're supposed to say miksa shevach of a person in front of him and say all his praise is not in front of him. So in the beginning of Noach, not in front of Noach, Hashem says tzaddik tamim. Here Hashem's talking to Noach. Ki oischa reisi tzaddik lefanai b'dar hazeh. To Noach, Hashem says to him, tzaddik, doesn't say tzaddik tamim. You say miksa shvachai to a person in front of him. When you're talking to a person, only say part of his praises. When you're talking not in front of a person, you say his whole praises. So Rashi and Ervin Yudches, why? It looks like flattery. There's a Marsha who says a different shot. Why in Ervin? But in front of a person, you should say part of their praises. Not in front of the person, you say their whole praises. That's why Tunayach, he says Tzaddik. Not about Noach, not in front of Noach. Hashem says Tzaddik Tamim. Now in Baloischa, in Parashas Baloischa, Miriam and Aaron had said Lashon Hara about Moshe Rabbeinu. And Hashem says to Miriam and Aaron, Vayikra Aaron and Miriam v'yetzu shneim. Hashem asks Aaron and Miriam to please step outside. They're together, Aaron, Miriam, and Moshe. And Hashem asks Aaron and Miriam, could you step outside? I want to tell you something. And Hashem says to them, and he praises Moshe Rabbeinu, Loikein avdi Moshe b'chol beisi nemanu, pel daber bay, umarav loy b'chidai, sutumnas Hashem yabet, madua lo yereis l'daber ba'avdi Moshe. A pasuk, beautiful praise of Moshe Rabbeinu. Says Rashi, why did Hashem call out Aaron and Miriam? Now, why didn't he say it in front of Moshe Rabbeinu? So Rashi says, Ne'ma mashchan v'fridan mi Moshe. Why did Hashem separate Aaron and Miriam from Moshe? Rashi says, because you say miksa shevach shalom b'fanav and kulay shaloi b'fanav. Now, that in Baloischa, it's a Sifri. The Sifri is from Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, who was a Tana. So in Baloischa is a Sifri, and it quotes Tanaim, that Hashem called Aaron and Miriam outside. It's Sifri. And the Tanaim say in the Sifri that you don't say Kol HaShvach in front of a person. Mix HaShvach b'fanav, Kulei Shaloi b'fanav. Says Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, he called Miriam and Aaron away from Moshe. Hashem wanted to rave about Moshe, to say amazing things about Moshe. And you don't say it in front of Moshe Rabbeinu, so he called him outside. It's a Tana. The obvious question is what's the Amoira in Ervin adding? Tanaim in Baloischa, ready to Sifri, commenting on Pesukah Baloischa, Elazar ben Azariah, in the Sifri is a Tana, and he comments on a pasuk that Hashem called Aaron and Miriam away from Moshe, because he says Hashem wanted to praise, and you don't say Kol HaShvach in front of a person, and Hashem wanted to say praises about Moshe Rabbeinu. So he called Aaron and Miriam away, and that's a Tana. In Erevin, it quotes in Amoira. It quotes in the Gemara in Erevin on Yud Ches Beis quotes in Amoira, and the Amoira says that the reason Hashem to Noach said Ki Oischa Reisi Tzaddik and didn't say a Tzaddik Tamim is and not in front of him called him a Tzaddik Tamim. Not in front you say Kol HaShvach. In front you only say Mixas. Why didn't Amoira repeat the words of the Tana? Why didn't he quote the words of the Tana? What happened? Could you say you don't say that Amoira didn't hear the words of the Tana? This was a statement of Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. We have in the Sifri, Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said the Shmua. In Baloischa, what's happening here? And I saw from a Talmud Chacham. Just a very, very good point. In Baloischa, you don't see there's an inyan to say people's praises. If you're saying, Hashem said the praises, why in Baloischa did Hashem say the praises? Because he has to speak about Moshe Rabbeinu, because he has to explain to Aaron and Miriam why you're wrong. Aaron and Miriam said Lashon Hara. They say, we're also Nevi'im. And we're married, so what's Moshe? So Hashem explains to them, you're wrong, and how big he is. So Hashem quoted the bigness of Moshe is not a din to say Shevach of people. It's not saying, that statement that we have a statement here. We have an Amayra in Erevin, Yud Ches, that says, and it even says here, Mikan, in over here, it's Mikan, now, it says, you say, the Lashon Chazal, you say partial praise in front of the person, and all the praise not. You can learn that as like an Isser, Balma. It's like a shtickle Isser. In front of a person, if you want to say all, not in front of the person. Now, in Baloischa, the Tana, that's all you have a raya. It's not, the Tana is not telling you say part in front of a person, say all, that's not what the Tana is trying to say. The Tana is simply saying in Isser, when you say praises, for whatever reason you have to say praises, don't say all of it in front of the person. And that we see that Hashem said praises because he had to say praises. But he only said it not in front of Moshe Rabbeinu. So in Baloischa, we see the Isser. It's not coming to tell you to say praises. It's not coming to say partial praise in front of a person. It's not a sugi of telling you to say praises. It's saying, when you do say praises, don't say them in front of the person, the full praises. And that's why Hashem wanted to tell Moshe Rabbeinu, Hashem wanted to tell big things about Moshe. He had to tell big things about Moshe to explain to Aaron and Miriam. He did it shaloi b'fneim. In Noach, Hashem says to Noach, come to the teva. And then Hashem tells him, because I've seen you as a tzaddik. That's not necessary. Go to the teva. There's a tziva of Noach. Go to the teva. You've been saved. Hashem telling him is an act, and that's what the Amayra and Erevin is saying. The Amayra and Erevin is saying, Mikan, Aymer Mitzvah Shalom, the fun of tell a person their shach. Just not cool. Like there's actually an asay. It's teaching you, say people's praises. God didn't have to give the reason. God could have said, come to the teva. But Hashem said to him, Ki oischa re'isi tzaddik. Hashem said it is a lesson for everybody. Say praises. It's an asay. It's telling you an active thing. There's a kasha. That's what the Amayra is saying that the Tana didn't say. The Amayra is saying that a person should say, there's an active din, mikan. This Talmud Chacham is even medayik that in Noach it says mikan, and in Baloischa it says lefi. In Baloischa, there's no active tzivui. It's not coming to teach, to say praises. You're not allowed to say, there's an isser here, ki'ilu. There's a din not to say not to say kol hashvach. So he calls him out, lefi, that you're not allowed to say kol hashvach. There's not a mikan, it's not telling you to actively say. It's lefi, that you're not allowed to say kol hashvach. So he calls Aaron and Moshe out to explain to them. In Noach, there's a mikan that a person should say mix hashvachai. Because why did Hashem say ki oischarisi tzaddik? Hashem said ki oischarisi tzaddik because you should get into the habit of praising people. Because a person should praise. Mikan shai mix hashvachai b'fanav. One should actively say mix hashvachai in front of a person. So Hashem told Noach, let me tell you why. He said hashvach. Shaloi b'fanav, a person should say kol hashvach. Eila told us Noach. Noach is tzaddik. Hashem said kol hashvach. So there's an Indian to say shvach. I wanted it's beautiful. I like studying Rashi and seeing two Rashis, seeing the pshat in two Rashis. That's a truth in the two Rashis. I wanted to learn this, I admit. With an agenda, I wanted to learn. Here that we're told, and we're mikan, that a person should say shvach sham b'fanav, kol hashvach shaloi b'fanav. I wanted to say that we're at a time, we're all at a time where Klal Yisrael is feeling a sense, we're Yidden, we're appreciating being Yidden, being mechazik and speaking b'shvach, and speaking positively about another Yidden. Mix hashvachai b'fanav, kol hashvach shaloi b'fanav. The Rambam brings, in V'ahavta L'reacha Kamocha, he brings only a couple of examples. And one of his examples is to be mishabeach Yidden. He speaks to be mishabeach, mikan. That sha'im mix hashvach shalom b'fanav, about saying shvachim, speaking positively, in a positive manner about Yidden. And Hashem, when he speaks to Noach, and we follow the midos of Hashem, that Hashem speaks about mix hashvach shalom b'fanav, there was no need to say, come in, ki oischa re'isi tzadik l'fanai. But Hashem wanted to say the praise, wanted to speak out the praise. I wanted to mention this Chazal. I wanted to read this Chazal and mention this Chazal at a time when there's an attack on our people, that we can be nisrabah and praising our people and uplifting our people and speaking good about Yidden, speaking the shvach of Yidden. I felt it was a kedai thing to study specifically this week about being mishabeach, speaking properly and speaking in a positive oifen about Yidden. I thought that was a worthwhile thing. I wanted to say tonight on Leil Shishi something just that Klal Yisrael has responded. We've definitely and are responding to a matzav that we find ourselves in as a response of Klal Yisrael. And I've noticed that we've made a big chizuk in Shabbos Kodesh. I've heard some of our leaders speak about it. And I've noticed there's been a tremendous chizuk in Shabbos Kodesh. And each person in their own way, one learning Hilchos Shabbos, one coming earlier to Shul Shabbos, one more Einig Shabbos, just being mechazik in Shabbos. In general, we're mechazik in all things. We recognize we're Yidden. One of our names is the Am Mekadshe Shvi. We're called the nation who sanctifies Shabbos Kodesh. It's been a year where Shabbos is highlighted. We had no Daraisa of Shofar this year. Instead of blowing the Shofar, the Yom Rishon, that's Daraisa, we were Shomer Shabbos. And the Shmira Shabbos was instead of the Shofar, the call of Shofar. Instead of the Lulav, which is Mekales, which praises Hashem, we had Shmira Shabbos. We had no Daraisa of Lulav this year. And then on Shabbos, we went through a difficult thing as an Ummah on Shabbos. We're called to Shabbos Kodesh. It feels like, and Klal Yisrael has made a chizuk. So I went on a Leil Chamishi, on a time we come together to learn on Leil Chamishi, right before an Erev Shabbos. I wanted to speak about this chizuk of being people of Shabbos, being people connected to Shabbos, being people who value Shabbos. An Am Mekadshe Shvi, a nation that sanctifies Shabbos Kodesh. I wanted to give that call to us all, each in our own unique way. One learning in Yanei Shabbos Kodesh, each one in the way that we can. I know people that are dear to me. B'nai Torah that are dear. I know different friends. I have 2 friends that are learning Hilchos Shabbos more carefully. I see different people doing different chizukim. In Shabbos and in Yanei Shabbos, I call my friends, all of us, to join. We're in Am Mekadshe Shvi. We're getting back to identity, in a certain way, almost back to basics, to being a Yid, each one of us to really join our nation in being the Mekadshe Shvi, each in our own way, being Mechazik and Yanei Shabbos. Everybody should have a wonderful Shabbos. Yes,